Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. Great to have you with us. Newly elected RNC Chairman Michael Whatley making waves. He's only been in the job for about a month and already making a bit of a splash. Whatley ran for chair on the pledge, the very specific pledge, that he would spend every day of 2024 trying to elect Donald Trump. Whatley already breaking that pledge. He has taken on the role of protecting Speaker Mike Johnson. Politico reports that Whatley has been briefing House Republicans on the importance of party unity. They also reported that he sent a warning message to Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is, as you know, trying to get Mike Johnson thrown out of the job of Speaker, saying, "Don't move against Johnson," Whatley warned. That's really quite a statement. And by the way, it also suggests that maybe, just maybe, President Trump is influencing Whatley's direction on this, which is further interesting because if they were to proceed with Marjorie Taylor Greene's attempted ouster, it would be bedlam in the House. And that is the last thing, frankly, the Republican conference needs. And by the way, the reality is, I would love to see Mike Johnson the heck out of there, but it just isn't the time. And by the way, they're not going to get much done in the next 5 or 6 months anyway. I do want to turn to a couple of interesting developments here today. Obama trash-talking President Trump. President Trump, he says, is not considered a serious guy. Obama saying, he comes from New York. He says there's nobody in New York who does business with him or lends him money. He's not considered a serious guy here. Obama, the former community organizer, said of President Trump. I can't believe this guy, Obama. Obama is a lightweight, if there ever was a lightweight. He's nothing but a mouthpiece for the Marxist Dems. He's not even, frankly, in tune with what is serious and what is not. All he's about is just actually trying to destroy the republic with his third term in office, thanks to Joe Biden, the puppet president. Talking trash about Trump. He looks pathetic. And by the way, President Trump on a really bad day has pocket change that amounts to his net worth. And he had to, really work hard for $200 million or so that he's got, Obama did. And another, just a beautiful story, a Michigan senator with stunning video warning everybody about a bill that the Democratic legislature, the Democrat senators just passed in Michigan, that will be, as he put it, an explosion of election fraud, saying it will not allow a recount, will bar investigations into election fraud. That is what I call a Marxist dream come true in Michigan. And good going, Michigan senators, you've run another game, and this just is a reminder that they're going to try to cheat all the way down the line. And by the way, speaking of President Trump, I talked to President Trump today, and I have to tell you, I was calling him to kid about his day off from the trial in New York, and just, see how he's doing. And then he reminded me that he had just two rallies today on his day off. He's on his way now to Michigan. Earlier, he had been in Wisconsin, and he was talking to me about how much energy and enthusiasm there is. He said it's much bigger than last time. And I want you to know, President Trump is feeling very, very good personally. His health is excellent, and he thinks the country is going to be saved. And that means, in my, at least, interpretation, he thinks he's got a winner in 2024. Let's make sure that he does. Spirits are high, his and mine, and I hope yours. And I know Alex Jones' spirits are high. Alex Jones is one of the icons in this country, a terrific American. And fortunately, he and I get along, and we are friends. And you know what? It's my turn to have him on as a guest. Next time, he has to put up with me. Alex Jones and I taking up the issues that confront the country and indeed may determine whether or not this republic succeeds. Talking today with the great American, Alex Jones. And now with us, Alex Jones. And Alex, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thanks for being here. And, I'll tell you what, let's just drive the left nuts here for a little while. What do you think?
Well, the two of us already do it, so just the combination's got to be horrible.
Well, I want to start with just the situation, the old condition, what condition my condition's in. I think it was first edition. It was a great song, but I have to say, what condition do you see this country in?
We are at the absolute crossroads of globalism versus freedom that you pioneered with Ron Paul decades and decades ago, exposing. And I don't want to say we've been vindicated, but we really have. It's kind of sad to be vindicated that we've mitigated some of the tyranny, but it's still basically all here. Global government, central bank digital currencies, totally open borders, the media praising Hezbollah and Hamas. I mean, it is just an insane moment. And we know the end of the old monetary system of the private Federal Reserve and the central banks, the Bank of International Settlements, that's all coming to an end. Their old Ponzi scheme is coming to an end finally, and they're trying to segue into central bank digital currencies and the cashless society, like the CEO of Bank of America said a few days ago, and a system with the IRS, with AI, tracking every purchase warrantlessly, totally illegally. So if people think we've been living in 1984, that was just the warm-up. But it's not just Lou Dobbs, who 20 years ago was the only person in the media of any stature covering what was happening and predicting it. Now we're living it. And I see Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, but hundreds of other prominent hosts. All the most popular hosts sound just like Lou Dobbs 20 years ago, 15 years ago, or 6, 7 years ago on Fox Business. So the New World Order has silenced a lot of people. They've cut the legs out from a lot of people, but we just keep coming back. And they've had really a Pyrrhic victory. And so that's where we are, at a major crossroads in the next 188 days till this election, really deciding what we're going to do. And then the Democrats, with their movie Civil War, and Obama has a show on Netflix about Civil War, and all these professors in the LA Times, the New York Times saying Civil War is going to happen. Well, no, it's not. They're planning a leftist, BLM, Islamic, communist uprising that they're already starting to activate. And they've said, they have bills introduced, as you know, to really a legislative coup against the executive, that Trump won't be able to declare the Insurrection Act that George Herbert Walker Bush rightfully did, and I wasn't a fan of him, during the LA riots in the early 1990s before he left office, before he was defeated by Bill Clinton. They're saying when we have an uprising, it's a legitimate, mostly peaceful, thing, and we're going to not let him use the military, just like it's now confirmed in congressional hearings. Trump did want 10,000 National Guard on January 6th, and Milley basically blocked it, and Trump never overrode him. So they're really, if people think things are crazy now, we have we have the Weathermen 2.0, Obama, his third unelected, term. I believe he was elected the first two, but he's obviously behind Obama, literally carrying out their Weathermen fantasies that they had in the 60s, 70s, and 80s now. So I cannot overstress to people how epically bat bleep crazy, because right before we went live, you were saying that this country and the world is bat bleep crazy. And it's a paradox where those of us that exposed it have all the credibility, and then those that are doing it have no credibility but are controlled the Justice Department and the nuclear weapons. And so I just cannot stress that this is everything that Ronald Reagan talked about when he talked about the Globalist Trial Commission, everything that Barry Goldwater talked about, and then you and Ron Paul, decades out. But now the denial's over because we're here.
Yeah, we are here, and we're in the center of what appears to be a societal conflagration. We are watching everything. This is an explosion of values that no longer seem relevant, or certainly under attack as we sit here. And you mentioned globalism versus freedom. And I think that's a great way to look at it. The problem with it is freedom is just being so assaulted now in what was the bastion of freedom and liberty, the United States of America. I don't know if you notice this, but I mean, I've noticed the media doesn't even refer to the United States. They talk about America grudgingly, but they never use the expression United States. And I think that is in part a reflection of their psyches. They mean for there to be no states united whatsoever. They are divisive, they're polarizing, and as you said, there is an impulse within everything the Marxist left does in this country that is directed toward destruction of American values, destruction of the nation state itself, the destruction of the Constitution, and this constitutional republic is under such assault that I think it's fair to ask the question, will we survive it? Because right now we are in such a stalemate with the left. That is, we, the people, are in a stalemate with the Marxist left because they intend tyranny, they intend totalitarianism, and they intend for us not to be we, the people, and provide consent of the governed. They intend for us to simply be consumers, taxpayers. We'll be units of labor, but we sure to hell are not going to be citizens of any constitutional republic in the view of the left. And that is what they're working toward every single day. And most of the Republican Party, which is still the only countervailing influence of any significance in the country politically, there's just no question that the Republican Party isn't even awake to what is pretended here by the spokesman of the left, and primarily one Barack Obama, as he talked about the fundamental transformation of America. We're witnessing it. We're living it. And people are only now begrudgingly acknowledging that reality as they look at Donald Trump, a former president, future president, and how he is being just crushed by the Marxist left in a lawfare society of legal, terrorists. That's the only way I could describe what he's going through. We're talking with Alex Jones, and we're going to come right back and take up exactly what condition America's condition is really in. We'll be back with Alex Jones in one moment.
Wellness Company and their doctors are medical professionals you can trust. And their new medical emergency kits are the gold standard when it comes to keeping you safe and healthy. This medical emergency kit contains an assortment of life-saving medications, including ivermectin, Z-Pak. Rest assured, knowing that you have emergency antibiotics, antivirals, and antiparasitics on hand to help you and your family stay safe from whatever life throws at you next.
We're back now with Alex Jones. And Alex, we touched upon banks. We're watching First Republic in Philadelphia collapse the other day. We went through the same thing at about the same period last year. We're now watching a Federal Reserve that doesn't have any sense of where it is. We're looking at a Federal Reserve that is stubbornly hanging on to 2% inflation as their targets, while the inflation rate is, month to month, it is over 3% over the past 6 months. It is not moving down, it's moving higher. And the Fed isn't talking about even their balance sheet, which they have to run off $8 trillion. They are watching a market that is, frankly, right now, trying to figure out whether it's going to crash or whether it's going to prosper. And right now, it's under significant pressure, I think it's fair to say. And capital is being shipped out to China faster than capital can be accumulated in America. This does not take an economic genius to figure out this country is on a wayward path that leads only to more travail.
I was about to say, people forget you're not just a top talk show host. You used to head up CNN back when it was the top thing in the country and the world. You know finances, and you're an expert looking at it and saying it's totally screwed. I'm not an expert, but I know the same steakhouse 3 years ago that I get a really great steak for $40 is $100 now. And I can barely afford that. The general public can. And I see the gas prices, and I see what a package of bacon or eggs costs. And I talk to family that have degrees and work 2 jobs, and they can't pay their bills. They can't go on vacation. And Biden tried to tell us 2 years ago there was no inflation. Then he said, well, it's low. Well, now we've beaten inflation. No, now it's worse than ever. And that's really the deciding factor. And we have this old financial order. As you said, the private Federal Reserve doesn't know what to do right now. Everything they do turns to crap. It's coming to an end. And so the big question is, what are they going to try to do to extricate themselves from this? And the answer is civil unrest, billing civil war as really a communist uprising. And I really believe it's already begun. And then they say they're going to do this. They're going to drive Trump from power if he's reelected. They are actually going to try to burn the country down in 188 days while he's president-elect, according to the Washington Post and New York Times. That's their stratagem. They've got legislation introduced, as I said earlier, to pull the military power from Trump domestically. And I know I got 1,000 topics to cover, but I go back to that, Lou, because that's a coup. When they introduced legislation in the Senate to pull the power of the president over the military, and they've introduced legislation to have a inspector general over the Supreme Court, that is the most unpopular branch of government, the legislative, with all these Democrat lawyers and rhino collaborators trying to take over the Supreme Court, trying to take the military power from the president. We're not approaching a coup. We're in the middle of one. And I don't say that to be negative, but it would be a lie if I didn't say it. It's positive to admit the truth. I forget which founding father said, I want to know the whole truth and make preparations for it. I think it was Patrick Henry. He said, why sit we here idle? The war has already begun. And I'm not calling for physical confrontation. I'm simply saying there needs to be a sense of urgency with populists and capitalists and conservatives and people that just aren't insane to understand that everything that was warned of is now here. And we have to reach out, I think, to the smarter people, the whistleblowers, people in government and corporations, and say, now is the time for you to speak out and say no and not follow these orders, because any corrupt dictatorship, any corrupt oligarchy or plutocracy, when it's in trouble, is going to try to outlaw its opposition. I forget the exact Orwell quote, but he basically said, tyrannies come in based on lies. But then once the lies are exposed, all that is left is force. And so we're now at the force point, and I want listeners to understand, the FBI and others have been caught trying to kidnap Whitmer and provocateur events. And there's provocateurs out there saying violence is the answer, and I don't see conservatives buying that. But the point is, that is not where we win. We have to win intellectually. We're winning intellectually. That's why they want to make it physical. But you go see the movie Civil War, conservatives said, oh, they don't say who the good guys and bad guys are. This movie's not that bad. I went and saw it, and literally it's a Trumpian figure who is actually racist, and you've got white people executing Asians and blacks and others, and then there's an uprising where they take over the White House and all the Secret Service is old white men, and they kill them, and then they execute the Trumpian figure, and there's a new America. And you see the American flag falling and the monuments in D.C. being blown up, and then you learn at the end they're the good guys doing it. And it's completely racial, where this black liberal commando woman executes the Trump figure. Hollywood is telegraphing what they're planning. So I don't want to be doom and gloom here, but I also can't lie to people that the communists, the globalists, the Soroses know that they are losing their hearts and minds, including triple the number of blacks, double the number of Hispanics voting for Trump. They really get their prosperities under attack, their freedoms under attack. So there is a desperate move. And I believe they're going to try racial conflict, the Hezbollah, Hamas garbage. That's already going on, but they're also going to try to, I think, trigger the financial crisis either right after Trump gets elected or right before. And Trump even said, gosh, I hope the collapse happens before I get in. He goes, I'm not for the collapse, but at least then I don't get blamed. I can fix it. So people need to understand, we are not in a normal situation. We are in a historical moment right now, and there's a normalcy bias where a lot of conservatives, as you were mentioning earlier, don't realize how incredibly dangerous this is.
Yeah, there's no question about it. Alex, to think that we were sitting here with 30 approaching now $37 trillion in debt. The economy is generating approximately $30 trillion in wealth. And not all of it is what I consider legitimate wealth. It is, in point of fact, highly questionable in terms of nominative values. What we're doing in a number of areas, whether it be in the Federal Reserve, what we're watching our commercial banks do. They have basically they're on a government program to print money. And I use that in the colloquial expression, to make profits despite whatever the situation is in the real economy. But when we talk about where we're headed in this country, most people right now, about 70% in nearly every poll I've seen, people are talking about living paycheck to paycheck. That should scare the hell out of everybody. When you've got 70% of our adult population who are not making ends meet or doing so just barely, we have a serious problem. And it's a serious problem that this Biden regime naturally is ignoring, or in some cases supporting in terms of their policies. We're going to take that up. We're talking with Alex Jones. We're coming right back after these quick messages. Stay with us.
Wellness Company and their doctors are medical professionals you can trust. And their new medical emergency kits are the gold standard when it comes to keeping you safe and healthy. This medical emergency kit contains an assortment of life-saving medications, including ivermectin, Z-Pak. Rest assured, knowing that you have emergency antibiotics, antivirals, and antiparasitics on hand to help you and your family stay safe from whatever life throws at you next.
We're back now with Alex Jones. And Alex, we're talking about a banking system that is in some ways highly concerning. And the regulators know it. The Federal Reserve knows it. I don't know what this administration knows. They're chief economic advisors to Biden are attorneys, so I don't know what they know and what they don't. They think they can negotiate their way out of anything. But the reality is that we are not, at this point, saving enough money. We don't have enough money in the system for people who are middle class, hardworking, and their families to get by, other than week to week on a paycheck. And there is in all of this great danger, because as you talked about civil war, what we're also talking about is a class war. And it's a class that is divided up again, sliced and diced by demographics. We're watching African-American prosecutors going after a white former president who was called a racist, but we can't find out where he was racist and which of his policies were. In point of fact, when you look at the prosperity that he brought to African Americans, to Hispanics in this country, the minorities, to working men and women and their families, for the first time during his presidency, real wages rose for middle class workers in this country. It had been 30 years, over 30 years, since that had been the case. And there is so much of a lie that is being foisted upon the American people. We are inundated with propaganda from our own government, campaigns of disinformation and misinformation. The principal source of most of it that bombards us is from our own federal government. And the rest of it is from the institutions that are now in disruption and chaos, and that is the colleges and universities, where they're indoctrinating our youth for the privilege of sending them $70,000. They'll indoctrinate our children into cultural Marxism. And by the way, we can catch up with education maybe 5 or 6 years later during your PhD program. I mean, it's bizarre.
Well, you just nailed it. It's, again, Cloward and Piven didn't invent overwhelming a government to collapse it so you come in and take control. That was the French Revolution. That was Lenin. We've seen this before, but they admit we're overwhelming it with illegal aliens and all of this to collapse it. And if you extrapolate it out just politically, it's going to destroy the country worldwide. It's going to kill the dollar, but they have such a fixation in dominating the American people that they can't stop. So that's where we are. And, you know, the good news is, as you said, massive record numbers of African Americans going to vote for Trump, record numbers of Hispanics. That's what panics the left even more. So they say, well, if we bring in totally unwashed people that we totally control, maybe they'll do what we want. Then we have famous videos of Democrats admitting, yeah, we're going to get a bigger apportionment in the census for more districts, and yeah, we're going to have them vote illegally. So really, it's a panic and a hysteria by the left because they know they've lost control. They know they've lost. And so what does somebody do who's a punk when they've lost a chess game or checkers? They overturn the table. Or you're losing in poker, you say you cheated and overturn the table. But that said, that's what's so dangerous, Lou, is that we're at the moment of the communist, globalist, Marxist experiment that's failed everywhere else, failing on their main big target. So they're going to throw a total hissy fit. I'll use the analogy of the great Blade Runner movie in the 1980s where the Blade Runner goes in to kill the last few, replicants. And he shoots Pris, the female replicant, and she throws this famous fit. Well, she's already been hit. They've already been hit politically, not violently, but we've already headshot their ass. They're done. Everybody's turning against them. All over the world, populists are being elected. All over the world, nationalists are being elected, whether it's Scotland or whether it's El Salvador, whether it is, New Zealand or whether it's Italy. And the politicians aren't perfect, but they're moving in the right direction. Trudeau's got 20% approval ratings. The conservatives have 43. That hasn't happened in 10 years. I mean, we're running the tables, and that's why we're in so much danger. It's that paradox of who's going to have the Pyrrhic victory. We're winning hearts and minds, but they get political control and have martial law and economic crisis. Or do we are smooth and controlled and easy and tell people what's about to happen so when they try it, nobody buys it? I see us, if this was a football game, we're in the third quarter and we're like 7 points ahead. It's our game to lose, and that means everybody watching has got to share this. Everybody watching has got to send this out and other shows. Everybody watching has got to go talk to their congressmen and women. Because people think I'm just a little person. No, you're not. Every little action now of courage to warn people has more effects. The communists talk about this. The social engineers talk about, I guess it's actually, is it a Stalin or a Lenin quote that there are times in history where more happens in a month than happened in 100 years. We are now in that point the social engineers call a liquefaction. Normally society's rigid, they're status quo, but every 100 years or so, the whole third, fourth turning, all of that, there's a time when it's liquefied. Well, things are soft right now. They're malleable like clay. And so we don't just sit back while they create their new nightmare. We oppose it. We build alternate systems. We expose them. And so we have the greatest opportunities right now, but also the greatest downsides, because as the Chinese say in their proverb, may you live in interesting times. It's a double-edged sword. The opportunities are insane, but with opportunity in a flux point comes incredible danger. So I cannot stress, in 30 years I've been on air, you've been on air a lot longer, we are at the maximum danger point of total urgency. And I would just say to listeners, this is real. And I know listeners know this, and viewers know this, but listen to me carefully. God is in control. And I think the most important thing in the trials and tribulations I've gone through, it's come out in Congress, it's come out in undercover videos. I was targeted by the FBI, the CIA with false narratives and incredible lawfare. Nothing compared to Trump, but like I'm second to Trump. And like he's 100 times worse. I can't even imagine the iron will of that guy. But I'm telling you, they did it because they feared what we were saying. And so we are at this inflection point right now because they fear the people. And I just want listeners to know, praying to God and not telling God what to do, but just saying, God, lead, God, and direct me. I pray for freedom. I pray for awakening. I pray for peace. I pray for justice. I pray for love, and not buying into the, in closing, it was in WikiLeaks in 2016. I think it was Columbia, but the point is Hillary is talking in an email chain, which they admit's real, to the head psychologist of the psychology department. And they say, listen, no one's listening to us. No one cares. The last thing we've got is culture war, and then all that comes with that. Well, we now see that, and the nasty deprivation and evil this looks horrible. It makes us feel bad about America. No, that's a ruling, dying class, and it's their last gasp. And so we have to see that, as negative as it is, as a positive desperation.
Well, I applaud everything you just said. I do think it's important also for everyone listening to us to understand. And by the way, prayer is powerful, and God is almighty. And you won't get much better support or direction than from God. But the other part is, it's on us to understand just how severe the battle is that awaits us. As difficult as things are now, I truly believe we're going to see much worse. And I don't believe anybody can predict all of it. But the reality is, we're a nation that has squandered wealth that was built up over generations of Americans. We pretend for some reason that we can just keep going at the same rate and waste away our resources. We cannot. We're crazy enough to send $61 billion to Ukraine. Well, we're borrowing $61 billion from China so we can send that money to Ukraine so that Russia, backed by China, can fight and go to what end? The level of contradiction within our foreign policy, we had a great disruptor elected president back in 2016. We need that same disruptor here, because just as you suggested, I truly believe he is the Churchill of our times. He is, and this is 1939, and the war has begun. And the Republican Party would have no brand at all, no ideology at all, no philosophy if it were not for Donald Trump. And it has the wonderful advantage of being put together with 6 words: America first, make America great again. And we really have to get into the fight, all of us, in every way possible. And will it be a civil war? I don't know. I know that the left wants a civil war. This is provocation, whether it is going after Donald Trump or whether it is trying to intimidate the Supreme Court into doing exactly what a cognitively impaired, corrupt puppet president says do.
And Lou, I totally agree with you. In closing, this isn't a civil war. It's a communist leftist uprising. When they attack and one cop does one thing wrong, that'll be the whole new pretext they admit. I mean, they are planning to get us in a fight. I say we don't do it. We're winning intellectually. We're winning with God. And we've just got to stop Cloward and Piven. And we have a good shot at winning. That's what's so frustrating, though. If I knew we were going to lose, I would just say, well, it's God's will. We're being judged. God's giving America, von Bismarck said, God loves children, drunks, the United States of America. I mean, we've been given 9 lives. And I've got children, you've got children, grandchildren. I've got children about to have grandchildren. I love this country. It's the best house in a bad neighborhood, and let's save it together.
Amen, brother. Thanks for being with us, Alex. God bless.
Thank you, Lou.
Thank you. And thanks, everybody, for being with us. God bless you. And I just want to say, tomorrow we'll also have here Mark Morano. He runs the climatedepot.com. He has terrific books out as well, and would invite you to join us tomorrow. I think you'll find it very interesting on climate and climate denial and climate lies. And that's all the Marxists do in this country, and that's all Biden has done throughout his career. So I think you'll enjoy Mark Morano here with us tomorrow. Please join us. Thank you, everybody. God bless you, and God bless America.